is Clara Towson, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
I am Francisca George, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Susan Leemans and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom. Yeah.
My name is Zainab Sammaz and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hey guys, my name is Sasha Vickery and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hi, my name is Lloyd Harris and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Paolini and I'm a friend of the show.
Wow, Jasmine, you got it in one time.
Well, hello there, and welcome to WTA Weekly. And I can do that in one take too. I'm very happy to be joined by Mario, who is, in my mind, the perfect draw preview partner for when we do these. Mario, how are you doing?
Thank you. I'm fine. Looking forward to the slam, but first looking forward to do this show. As you know, it's always a big pleasure to talk with you. And since it's been quite a long time for me on the WTA Weekly, I'm very looking forward to this.
Was the last time when we did a Wimbledon preview?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need to make a habit of this. This is going to be good.
After before every slam.
Exactly. We'll break it down and have some fun with this. I have to say, since the draw came out, I have been very impatiently counting down to the start of the US Open. People are probably looking at me crazy when I say I can't wait for Monday.
Yeah, I get it. Also because, we know the draw since Thursday, so there's 4 days before the start of the action. So you start, being there and looking at the draw, who can potentially meet and everything. And it's always this talk without any action. So I can get why. I'm also very looking forward to tomorrow, Monday. And let's see also because as we are used to, WTA draws as always tons and tons of blockbusters matches since the round one. So it will be very good.
Well, before we get into the draw, I do want to spend about 5 minutes on the results from last week, just because I think they are noteworthy. So we'll start with the bigger tournament, the 500 in Monterey. Linda Noskova is a WTA champion, and not only that, a WTA 500 champion, which is a big deal because there were some tough players in that field. And I guess I was going to say finally a WTA champion, but she's 19, so it's crazy to kind of put it in that context. For me, it's kind of, I think for a while now, for like at least a year, maybe 2, we've been going, when is she going to win a WTA title, especially after she beat Swiatek earlier in the year. But what's your take on this result for Linda?
I have to be honest. Despite her being just 19, I had to double check when I read first WTA title, because at first I had this thought like, are we sure? Is it really like that, or it's just the first 500? And no, it's just like that. I mean, also. We also know that for these players who break through the top 30, for example, very early in their career, and then, for example, this year they are very limited in playing 250s, so it doesn't get very easy to get the first WTA title on the lower category tournament. Not that Noskova hasn't played it, but for sure, a player that hasn't been the most consistent one over the past 2 years, but she's so young and she has proven that she can really be dangerous. She got some very good wins, since early January last year, 2023, when we saw her being, in a final 500 final, only losing to Sabalenka, who would have gone also to win the Australian Open 2 weeks later. So we saw her getting some very big wins. Of course, the win over Iga Swiatek. So I would say that also this run, it's been a very, very good one. No sets dropped en route to the title, and beating Svitolina, Navarro, Sun, who's playing unbelievable tennis lately. So very, very good run. Solid stuff this week, really, for her. And yeah, now let's see, because US Open, a very, very interesting first round match for her against Putintseva, which is a player who is playing very well this year and also has the tennis, the game, in my opinion, to trouble Noskova also matchup wise. I can see that happening. So I really will be interesting to see also that match. So very interesting also to put into perspective for for the US Open. But just talking about Noskova, it's very impressive stuff for her, and at her age, I know that we look at times at Andreeva, for example, and then we lose a little bit the perspective. But she's still yet to turn 20, and she's a top 30 player with some big wins, and also now a 500 title, which is very solid stuff for her.
Yeah, it is unfortunate that she's drawn Putintseva in round 1 of the US Open, because especially now with that 500 title, she has launched herself back into the top 30. So Putintseva are they are basically top 30 players. It's unfortunate it's round 1 at this point. By the way, Ghosty, I am very much in the same boat as you. I am being starved of tennis in the minute. As I said to Mario, I can't wait for Monday. And yeah, I'm very pleased for Noskova. I'm glad that she's got this, and I'm kind of optimistic that she is coming, and she's going to get a lot of confidence from it. I don't know if it's going to be from this US Open, because the flight from Monterey to New York is long. It's a tough turnaround. Not as tough a turnaround as for Lulu Sun, who's playing tomorrow. But so I'm not that optimistic that she gets there, especially with a tough first round in Putintseva. But I think the rest of the season and beyond, she's got that ticked off. So we'll come to Cleveland in a minute. But I wanted to talk. I just wanted to do a quick mention on Lulu Sun, because I did, when I saw that was going to be the final. I was like, okay, I don't know who I want to win that, because Lulu Sun is playing so well right now, and she's shown that Wimbledon quarterfinal was not a fluke, and I would have been very much up for seeing her win a title as well.
Yeah, I mean, with Noskova being, also so young, you can at times think like, okay, there will be another chance for her. But I also get with you not being sure, because, yeah, I mean, you say this one time, you see this another time, you see this another time once again, and then you are like, okay, she's getting close, and not getting the title. It still is, not a nice thing, despite her being very, very young. So I get why it was a very big chance for both players. And Lulu Sun, yeah, as you said, playing fantastic tennis since Wimbledon, but not only since. Then she was very solid also in Cincinnati. She beat Noskova in Cincinnati after qualifying, and so Noskova got her revenge this week in Monterrey. And Noskova soon, has a little bit more unfortunate situation for the US Open, because she plays on Monday, while Noskova plays in the top half with Swiatek. So it's on Tuesday. I think I'm right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And so it's even unluckier for Sun. But I mean, for these players, I know that the schedule is very difficult to handle, because at times you're forced to make this kind of decision. For example, Sun, we look at the ranking right now with a total different perspective. She already has done it after Wimbledon, but right now it's even better. And yeah, let's see. It's for sure tough for her. She was very close actually to lose against Carlet, because there was an OK review which on the match point for Carlet gave Sun's ball in by this match. But yeah, overall, fantastic player with fantastic ground strokes, and she's able to fight that match on the courts. I saw the match against Alexandrova. Really good to see her play this way. And I mean, I hope there will be another chance for her. But yeah, for sure, getting a title would have been deserved.
I think Luluson's still young enough that she'll get another opportunity. I would hope she stays fit.
Yeah, 23, so
yeah,
she can.
we'll talk about her US Open prospects in a minute, because I do agree. Yeah, she's got a tough turnaround, especially with Bronzetti in the first round, who I think if there are any physical troubles, Bronzetti will make Soon run. And that could make things tricky for her. But I could also see a scenario where Bronzetti is overpowered by Soon.
Yeah, it's a bit difficult. It will depend a lot from Soon's conditions. I mean, I get what you say about Bronzetti, because I consider her being, that classic, solid player that can be very annoying to face if you're not 100%, if you have some troubles, because you can have to overdo some kind of things and to try to end the rally maybe sooner than you should. And so, yeah, it will depend a lot if, Soon will be okay, physically ready. She should be the favorite, but of course, we know that it's difficult. We've seen a lot of times these kind of things happening, these infirm players in the weeks before a slam, then coming, right after maybe a title, final, deep run, and losing early. It can happen, but yeah, for sure it will be, Soon will need to be okay physically. That's for sure.
Okay, let's do Cleveland now, because I know people really want us to get onto that one before we get to the US Open draw. And we have another new WTA champion, another new young player, probably in the same sort of age range as Lulu Sun, and another US college system success story, maybe. McCartney Kessler is the Cleveland champion. Not necessarily what I predicted going into this. I didn't know an awful lot about Kessler before this week, but yeah, she's got herself a WTA title and her name on the map, it seems. I mean, probably should have maybe understood she was highly rated, given she's got herself a US Open wildcard. But yeah, got through and has kind of got her name out there now.
Yeah, I have to say that I've kind of noticed herself a little bit throughout the year, because she got some very good results actually. Lately, she qualified for Wimbledon. She won an ITF title in Landisville a couple of weeks ago. So she's getting results right now at 25, getting higher and higher in the ranking. And yeah, I agree with the forehand comment. Actually, it's a great forehand to watch, and very good ground stroke. And yeah, I mean, she got some good experience actually, also because if you watch some of the players that she has faced this year, also in the spring, she faced Wozniacki, she faced Navarro, even if losing these matches, and all this has for sure helped her. She won a WTA 125 in Puerto Vallarta this year. So, she flew under the radar a little bit, that's for sure, because she's, also for a ranking, she was this week 98. So, this kind of ranking just outside the top 100 this year. And so she's played some maybe qualifying matches a couple of times in the main draw. Only one WTA win before this week, but some good results on lower level. And so yeah, I would say that it's surprising, but when you go and check the results and see who she beat, and also watch the way she play, it makes sense actually that she won this title at the end of the day. And I'm interested now to see how she can, move forward from this title, because, we also saw a lot of college players around this age, 24, 25, 26, starting getting higher and higher in the ranking, and then not dropping down because of their amazing quality. Yeah, let's see. Very good round to witness, that's for sure. Yesterday, especially, good turnaround. She lost 7 out of the first 8 games in the final. So it was a great turnaround. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah. So that was probably one of the comebacks of the year then for Kessler, especially in such a high stakes situation of your first WTA final. She has been a name that I have noticed has been climbing the rankings recently. So like seeing her in contention to try and break top 100 in time for a slam and to get in, and she's not quite made it, but there's usually a reason why someone's hanging around that section, is because they've been having good results on the lower levels. So yeah, Kessler into the US Open, and she'll have, again on the theme here, tough opening round. Not as tough a turnaround because Cleveland's closer to New York. North Carolina's not as bad as Mexico for travel, but she's got Marta Kostyuk in round 1. So
yeah,
not ideal for her in that situation.
Yeah, it's a tough match. I won't lie. I think she's not the favorite in that match. But who knows? Maybe the confidence and her improvements, the way she's feeling right now. If physically, she's fine. Who knows? Maybe the confidence can help her, and we can witness, a tough battle. So. Yeah, let's just see. But I'm not going to say that she's the favorite, because Kostyuk, it's very tough challenge to take. All
right. Well, let's start as we need to go on, and we'll go into the US Open preview. And we're going to do what we usually do, quarter by quarter, break it down, see who we think is coming out of that quarter. And then when we've gone through all the quarters, we will look at potential, compare our potential semi-final lineups and beyond. So
yeah,
quarter number 1, and let's do the obvious thing here, is that this is the first slam in a while that I haven't seen any discussions about Iga Swiatek's draw.
That's right. That's right. There was the that laughable thing about Noskova, about all this. There's still Collins in her quarter, which has been kind of a recurrence this year. But we had that situation. I'm not going to lie. I also had noticed that her draws were looking more or less always similar. It was kind of like she was playing always the same players. But this time it's I think it's pretty balanced, more or less, as a draw. So I also think we haven't had this situation of a player, at least in the general published comments, we haven't noticed. Even if I think getting Pegula in quarterfinal, it's not the best thing possible, because in my ideal power ranking, Pegula was the 3rd, and seeing her drawn in Iga's quarter, it's kind of bad for both. I was also wondering, can this be Pegula's maiden semifinal, before the draw? I'm still wondering it, of course, but, then I see she draws Iga, and, kind of tough for both players.
I know what you mean there. Looking at that quarterfinal lineup, because, I did the same thing, and I think a lot of people have put Pegula as their 3rd favorite for this US Open. And I do think that out of the options, I think Pegula is going to be the least happy, because she had a 50-50 chance of getting a quarter where there was a good chance of her making the semi-finals, i.e. not being in with Swiatek or Sabalenka, and she missed out. So, I would imagine that Pegula feeling good, this was a draw that would probably fit into her sort of the less favorable side of things for her.
Yeah. I agree. And I mean, overall for Pegula, it's kind of a tough putt. There are some, very dangerous challenges she can have. Maybe not, I was also thinking about that round 1. It's a big storyline, getting Arthur Ashe, Shelby Rogers' last match. Of course, Pegula should win this match, all things considered. Still, it would be, interesting to watch this final match of Rogers' career. I still very much remember her win over Barty. It was, very, very big moment also, because the match was actually very entertaining, was very good. Also, of course, a couple of quarterfinal appearances on majors. One of, these players you think oh dear, she hasn't won a title, WTA Tour. level title, and it's pretty sad to know, considering the kind of career she had and the kind of tennis she could play. But yeah, what do you think about Iga's path instead?
Oh, Pegula's path.
Yeah, both actually. Pegula, I don't know. I think it's pretty tough.
Yeah. So, Igor, Pegula. Okay. Both of them. Yeah. No, we can look at both of them. I'd say it's toughish. I think Rogers shouldn't be a problem. I mean, Rogers has said that the reason she's retiring is because her body is wrecked now. Essentially, it's given up on her. Round 2 for Pegula is Raducanu or Kenin, and then round 3 is likely seeded as Katie Bolter, who I actually think has got a reasonable chance of making round 3 because I could see her beating either of the 2 players in the previous rounds. This is going to be very unpatriotic for me as a Brit, but I'm fairly confident Pegula gets through that. Like Raducanu, I know beat her in Eastbourne, but that was in conditions and a situation that favoured Raducanu because Pegula was coming off a Berlin win. And we wondered why she was even playing that tournament. And I think Bolter, again, they're both players who've recently beaten Pegula this year, but I think Pegula's a lot more confident player than she was when, and in form than when she played them. So potentially dangerous on paper, but I'm not massively worried. I think it's 4th round onwards that could get tricky for Jess. Yeah, and then for Iga, unless you want to come back on the Pegula point, and then I can talk about Iga.
Yeah, sure. No. I was just, there is another kind of storyline looking about all the players who are, the players potentially, round 4 opponents for Pegula. For example, will Schneider show up in a major? We've seen her getting, very good results this year. So it can be a question to have. I don't know what kind of answer we will have. Pretty sure sooner or later she will show up in majors. But yeah, it can be a question for this US Open. Collins about form, about her game, and so yeah, I get what you say, by the way, about her draw. But yeah, it's all these matches, you wouldn't close the door completely. That's what I mean.
No, I like when I was talking, I was like, no, I won't shut the door on that either. Like there is a possibility of Pegula getting upset there, with a lot of those players. I will come back to the Schneider and Collins question, because obviously I want to like Iga's draw. First 3 rounds are all right for her. Like even potentially getting Pavlyuchenkova in round 3. Like it's interesting. They've taken all the potential big hitters that could trouble Swiatek in the early rounds and put them in Sabalenka's quarter, pretty much. And I think with this, I think Iga's only real potential trouble match could be round 4, which could be a rematch with Mira Andreeva. And then we get to quarterfinals, which I think would then be danger territory for her, which, could be Pegula, could be Collins, could be Schneider. And I do think Schneider will show up in a Grand Slam. She showed up at the Olympics, so I think that's close enough to convince me that she will. So, yeah, I think that's probably good. But yeah, would you say that Iga's biggest threat to not making the semi-finals would be coming from Pegula, Collins, Schneider, or Andreeva?
I just don't know a little bit about Andreeva not because I don't think, it's a very tough opponent. We saw it in Cincinnati. Iga said in press conference that she feels way better on court in Cincinnati. She feels the court is slower and these conditions suit her better. So I think, okay, maybe, in a rematch, Iga should have a little bit more things under control, probably. Even if can still be, of course, very tough. We saw Andreeva, how well she can play more or less everywhere in any kind of conditions. So it's still a match which is very difficult, but overall, also considering Iga's performance in Cincinnati, which has been okay, but could have been better. Then I tend to think that if Iga is feeling okay, maybe it's a little bit still too early to call for Andreeva's beating her, maybe also in a Grand Slam. So I don't know. I think probably I still would say Pegula as the toughest opponent, in my opinion, because of the way she's playing, and because even if Swiatek has won and fairly comfortable some of the matches, Pegula, we saw also beating her with some of her weapons. For example, if she returns very well, we know that she can trouble Iga's serve. Also the second serve, which has been quite of an issue for Iga against Sabalenka, even if, against Sabalenka, for most of the players, the second serve is kind of an issue. But yeah, I still would say Pegula.
It's interesting with the Pegula-Swiatek matchup, because you're right, Pegula has beaten Swiatek twice. Iga does dominate the head-to-head, though. And when Pegula beat Swiatek, which was both last year, it was the United Cup on super slick courts, and then Toronto, which was Montreal, wrong city.
Yeah.
Montreal, which was a bit of a messy match.
Yeah, that's right.
And that was the famous Cut Night Joe moment there. And I think with that, I would say that in both those circumstances, Pegula was super confident, and there were conditions that could help her out. And Iga wasn't super confident. So for me, unlike those times, Iga is more confident than those two previous meetings. Conditions will be fast, though. And this might be the first time that you would see a Swiatek-Pegula matchup and hesitate a little bit before putting Iga as the favourite. I still think she would be. Overall, I'm pretty confident in that. I think Iga would find a way through because she's beaten Jessica Pegula at the US Open before. But there is that considered like that moment of like, I think we might actually give Pegula a chance in that matchup.
Yeah, especially if she reaches the quarterfinal, especially if she plays well, I still would give her a chance, even if not being, the favorite in the match. The thing is that as I watch, all the play, I know there's Collins. She can reach the quarterfinals and she can trouble Iga if she plays very, very well. But I don't know. I have some question marks around here right now. And so, also for some, what to say is for some reliability matter, Pegula looks like, for me, the favorite is to reach that quarterfinal right now, considering all these players and not only how well all them can play, but also, what's the real chance they show up 100% here right now next week at the US Open.
So you would favour Pegula in a matchup against either Collins or Schneider in that fourth round?
I'll give a slight edge to Pegula, in both cases.
Both cases. Okay, there we go. So we're fairly confident. So we're relatively confident that we're looking at a Swiatek Pegula quarterfinal. Maybe Pegula being the last likely to make it of the two, given there are some names that could beat her in her section. But we're confident Pegula's enough in Pegula's form that she'll still make it through. I think that's something that we need to bear in mind. And then in the actual quarterfinal, we're giving Pegula a decent chance of beating Swiatek. Maybe that's going to go 3, but Swiatek eventually gets through that.
I have the same idea, actually. Indeed, for me, when I said Pegula third in the power rankings, is because Swiatek is in the top 2. And despite of course not taking the title on hardcourt, for me it's not that important in Iga's case. So it's not enough to make her be outside the top two. Cincinnati maybe gives me that thing, and I think for a lot of people has been like that right now, saying maybe Sabalenka number 1, Iga number 2 in this power ranking. But yeah, overall, for me, in this quarter, she's still the favorite to advance to the semifinal. And also hearing from her, listening to her press conference, I see Iga being okay with the courts, feeling well. I have, those good vibes watching her in practice and everything to make me think she will be okay. Of course, then the matches can also be another kind of thing, but I have to say that I agree with you on this.
Yeah, I think Iga's been giving a lot of good vibes from this tournament. Like, she seems to have absolutely loved being part of Fan Week in New York, which I think is important. I think it's important for her to get settled into New York. I know she said in press conferences she never feels fully settled because of all the noise and everything. It's not ideal for her. But yeah, I think she knows she's won here before. She's got that track record, and she knows the conditions might actually not be too bad for her. So yeah, on that basis, you have to say that Iga's feeling pretty good. So I think before we move away from this quarter, I want to talk about highlight round 1 matches that are going to be really, really good. So I've got 3 that I picked out as not ones you don't want to miss. Mila Andreeva against Camila Osorio.
Yeah.
Danielle Collins against Caroline Dolhide, and Emma Raducanu against Sophia Kenin, which we have a poll about on the chat. If you've voted in that, then let us know who you think's winning that one. But yeah, thoughts on those matches, Mario, and if there's any other quarter one round 1 matches that I may have missed.
I don't know. I think an interesting one can be, for example, Schmidlova Tauson also.
Yes. Yeah.
It can be a good one because I mean, we saw. I know it's clay, another kind of situation, but Schmidlova has picked up some good confidence lately. Tauson, we know that she's a potentially dangerous player with very good qualities. So it can be at least a very, very interesting match. And overall, I agree with your picks. Very interesting to see Raducanu and Kenin because of also Raducanu not having played that much actually. I know that for her maybe it's not that big of an issue because I've watched her being able to play at a fairly good level even after big breaks, and but still would be very, very interesting to watch both of these players. Things haven't gone really as expected for them maybe over the past couple of years. Raducanu got into form on the grass season. She played, very well between Eastbourne and also Wimbledon. So it's a bit, I would say Raducanu is the favorite in the match. But just to add my match, it was that one between Schmidlova and Tauson, probably, if we have to say another one.
I'll add that to the list. I agree with you on Raducanu being the favorite because I am pretty confident that Emma will pick up where she left off against Kenin, who also has been quite patchy. She's been struggling to win matches as well recently. And I think Emma's been hitting a lot more confidently. Kenin can disrupt that, and maybe crowd support could help her out here. But I think the poll is suggesting that Emma's the slight favorite. I would probably agree with that. But if I'm going to back one, I would go with Emma to win that match. And that's going to be last match on courts. I think last match on grandstand on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Right, quarter number 2. And I have to say, for someone who there's been a lot of speculation around because she's not even publicly practicing at the minute. I have to see if she actually practiced today. A little bit of a shocking loss in Cincinnati, maybe not to the player, but sort of what kind of performance she put in Cincinnati. And sort of a longish absence in the public eye. Elena Rybakina is going to be playing in this section. She is the number 4 seed. But given someone who needs to play themselves into form, maybe at this US Open, this is actually not a bad draw for Elena at all.
No.
I don't see her being challenged until the 4th round at the earliest, and that's going to completely depend on whether Kalinskaya gets there. Really, if she doesn't make it, it's going to be because she's self-destructed. That's kind of my stance on Rybakina's path to the quarterfinals.
Yeah, me too. I also see Kalinskaya as kind of, the only name, maybe if. But yeah, looking especially the first 3 rounds, it's a good draw for her. She should win the first 2 without big troubles if she plays, like we know her. And the 3rd round, I mean, shouldn't be players that also matchup wise should really hurt her that much if she's okay. Because Garcia, Wozniacki, but we saw Wimbledon, Wozniacki. Maybe if the conditions are a bit different here and Rybakina is not in good shape, in good form, maybe she can have more troubles, that's for sure. But still, I would put fairly comfortably her as the favorite in all of these matches. So, would have been different is, for example, she would have been in Paulini's situation and then the opposite. It would have been different. But, I feel like it's not a tough draw for the first round. So I think it can be good for her if she needs to play into form. She should practice today with Lyudmila Kichenok. And let's see if it will actually happen, because I know that she canceled some practices yesterday. I know she's been spotted practicing a little bit alone. So let's see what is going to happen. And she has another day because she plays on Tuesday. So maybe this can also help her a little bit, even if I don't know if you're ready.
I'm wondering with the practice situation whether it's to do more with the fact that she doesn't want to practice in public, and that there might not necessarily be an issue, but there's something that she's working on that she needs time away from the public eye for other reasons. It might not necessarily be tennis related. So we can't we always assume like not practicing means there's a problem, but obviously she has been hitting tennis balls, if you said so. And I did smile a little bit on your Paolini comment, because I think out of the top 8 seeds, Paolini has the worst draw. Like, it is insanely awful in terms of she is in the most packed section of the draw in terms of names in there. Like, I've got Andreescu, Pliskova, Putintseva, Noshkova, Wang Jinyu, Fernandez, Ostapenko, Osaka, Mukova, and Potapova, all players that she could run into just to get to the quarterfinals.
Yeah, but I would also say that given there was still Wimbledon has a top 8 seed, but she was coming fresh off the French Open final. It was grass. Nobody had big expectations, So this is probably the first Grand Slam. She's, more under the lights, more people are focusing also on her as one of the top names. So maybe pressure-wise cannot be that bad, mentally to just have, a tough part, focusing a match at a time, and not kind of being the overwhelming favorite to win most of the matches. I mean, it's very difficult. I won't lie, it's very difficult because, for example, already Andreescu, she's faced and beaten her at French Open and Wimbledon. Andreescu is not in the best form of her life, but if there's one of the tournaments, one of the Grand Slams you would like to maybe avoid her, it's this one, because she's won it. We know that she can play very well on this course. Good memories often are also, with good feeling on the courts. And so it will be, I think, more difficult. It should be at least more difficult than facing her at the French Open and at Wimbledon. And also it will be more difficult, in my opinion, to face her as a round 1 than as a round 3. Because if maybe she's not in the best moment of her career physically, as long as the tournament goes, her level can drop a little bit or stuff like that. First round, she should be, fresh Andreescu. So yeah, but also, many of these players, as you have mentioned, are very tough. So this is a quarter which is actually very, very difficult to predict. Then also, I have to say that there are some question marks of some of these great players that, we have in this quarter, in this section, actually. So then we also have to look, how the draw, this section will actually shape out, throughout the first week of the tournament. But yeah, it's on paper, it's a very tough one.
It is very tough, and I agree with you in that this is probably the section that's going to be the hardest to predict a semi-finalist from, in some ways, because it is absolutely packed. It's a huge opportunity for whoever comes through, because if you think about who's coming through the Paolini 8th, they're going to play a potentially undercooked Rybakina in the quarters.
Yeah.
If Rybakina makes it that far, and if it's not Rybakina, then it's an underdog. So suddenly, then you're looking at a whole different situation where it's game on for a place in the US Open semi-finals. And so when you have to look at it like that, when we mention all these players, they're all probably going, oh, you're like, those who look at the draw probably thinking, oh, this is going to be tough. Maybe those who don't look at the draw are still going to have the same amount of belief that they can make it, compared to the ones who go, well, look, things could have fall my way if I've looked at it. I don't think Clara Burrell's in this section, so I don't know whether so I can't comment on her situation. But like looking at this, it's tough to see how things fall. I might be a bit controversial here because I've just said Power's got a super tough section and it might be unlikely to go through. But then thinking about who she's playing, she's got Andreescu, who is not in form, but still very dangerous, because you pointed out this is very much like her home tournament for her. Pliskova in round 2 would be a winnable match, because Pliskova is very hot and cold right now, mostly cold.
I think Paolini probably be the favorite in the round 2.
Yeah. Round 3 against Putintseva, Noskova, or Wong. I think if it's that, kind of depends on Noshkova's fitness levels, on nerves for whoever else is involved, what Putintseva's tennis comes out with. And then round 4, very much the same. Like, I don't know how much the players that she could meet would have in the tank, or how confident they would be in reaching that top level at that point. So when you look at who the most reliable player is in terms of putting a performance in this entire quarter, I would actually go with Paolini to make it out.
Yeah, I was also looking at Fernandez. I don't know. I know a lot of things we always say about Fernandez are true. She's a player who can be at times blown out of the court. She's not the most consistent player. I'm getting more confidence in her performances lately. I wouldn't be surprised if she shows up okay in this tournament. But yeah, I agree with what you say, that even, for example, in Cincinnati, where Paulini hasn't got an amazing result, she still has showed up, So, yeah, I would say that she's still kind of the most reliable one in terms of how consistently well she's playing. Then, of course, there are these players who maybe they show up very well and then things can get very, very dangerous. Still difficult to predict, of course, but I wouldn't look as shocking if Paulini maybe manages to get through. She's also got her pedigree right now, at least this year in this moment, so it wouldn't be shocking to witness. But yeah, it's very tough. It's a very tough section for all of the players actually involved.
I mean, look, I would love it if Leylah Fernandez made it, because she's so great to watch, and if she's back on form, you're going to be in for some spectacular tennis, and I would be super happy to see her in the semi-finals playing Iga, because that would be between two of my favorite players. But another name actually I'd be very, very happy to see in the semis would be Karolina Muchova. Actually,
yeah.
If she wakes up and defends those semi-final points, suddenly she's in a really, really good position, because at the minute she's about to lose most, if not most, of her points and drop well down the rankings. If she somehow got a semi-final defense, then suddenly she's back on the brink of top 30 again, and she can build on something to climb back up in this recovery period. Otherwise, it's going to be a grind like it was for the first half of 2023 for her.
Yeah.
So I would be super happy to see either of them in there. But regardless of who would be who you'd enjoy who you'd want to see, who do you think is the most likely to make it? Are you with me on Paulini, or are you going to go for a different name for our semi-final? I'm making you choose, Mario.
Yeah. For me, it was, in my prediction, either Paulini or Fernandez. I cannot choose actually between these two.
Okay.
Probably, yeah. I would still say, if I want to play it, yeah, it's as you said. Now that I'm reasoning about it, the safest actually still feels Paulini. Because this year she still somehow has showed up. Even in the weeks where she hasn't won the title, reached the final, doing the incredible things, she still has showed up. You rarely have seen her playing, very, very bad game in tennis. I don't know. I'm not confident in Ostapenko and Osaka, actually. At least, talking about very deep run. I don't know. I'm not on this idea. So, yeah, I would still say Paulini, even if I think the toughest matchup for her can be with Putintseva, as Paulini can run a little bit out of her shots, try to outplay Putintseva, and that can become not good for her.
Yeah, okay, I think we're on the same page there. So as much as it'd be cool to have Fernandez or Muchova in there, it's probably like Paulini is the most reliable name in that section. So you and I are both going to put Paulini against Swiatek as the first semi-final. Before we move on to sort of predictions on there, and we'll go through the rest of the quarters.
One thing I don't know, sorry, we know that we have a lot of these question marks about Rybakina, but if she reaches the quarterfinals, maybe she will, have got some form, some. Then again, the matchup against Paulini, I know that it's not the best possible for Rybak. She's had some troubles, and not only on clay, and even in some matches that she won. But yeah, she still has the chance of getting some form while reaching the quarterfinals. So
I know what you mean.
it has to be taken into consideration for me.
Yeah, I feel the same. I do want to consider Rybakina getting form and confidence back by reaching quarters. I think for me, it's going to down to how she's going to deal with that step up. And normally she'd be fine. Right now, we just don't know. But you're right, that possibility does exist, and we should not rule it out that suddenly it's like, this would probably be one of the few times where the number 4 seed making the semi-finals would be a surprise to some people.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Round 1 matches from this section then. So I've got 5. We've mentioned one of them already. Sorry?
All of them.
All of them. All of them. Yeah, no, I can see why. I mean, for me, the ones that I'm paying a particular attention to would be, well, obviously we've mentioned this one a few times, Andreescu Paulini. We've mentioned Putintseva versus Noskova at the top of the show. Ostapenko versus Osaka is the one that everyone's talking about. I've seen people mentioning it in the chat already on the live broadcast. Potapova versus Fernandez might end up deciding the outcome of the section in some ways. And Haddad Maia versus Avanasian. I think that's got quite an intriguing dynamic there with Haddad Maia being...
I was laughing with John when the draw came out, looking about that Maya potentially playing Avanesian and Sorribes Tormo, and we were like, she has to play 8 hours if she wants to get to round 3.
Yeah.
So yeah, but my choice, my personal choice, the one I'm looking forward the most is Mukova Volinets.
Oh, okay.
That's
the Nerman choice.
I'm really interested in watching that match because it can answer a lot of my questions about Mukova. Not a lot, but some of them. And Volinets, I think she's an underrated player. She can play very well. So I will be interested in watching that match. We also have Fruvirtova Lepchenko, which is Lepchenko is the oldest player in the draw. And Fruvirtova is, more than 20 years younger. So it's kind of interesting for that reason, the generational contest between these two players.
Oh, I love it. I love it when people point that, when we get that kind of clash. Oh, I hadn't realized that. That's so cool. Yeah, there you go for Fruvirtova Lepchenko if you want to see the battle of the generations. I'd probably back Fruvirtova in that one. I'm not sure how much of a good match we'll get from it, but
same.
I see why you've gone for Mukova Volinets because, yeah, Volinets is a good player, but we're there to see how Mukova's looking. I think that's our main priority.
Against a player which I believe that can expose Mukova if she doesn't play well. So, it's a match that may not maybe be interesting, but if, it can become a very close contest. And of course, all the questions about Mukova will be interesting to see how the match will go.
How excited are you about Ostapenko versus Osaka?
I don't know. Two very good names.
Brilliant, or it could be incredibly messy.
Yeah, I generally don't know how, two players who hit the ball that strong, but it's not like, if already was kind of Sabalenka, who is a very strong hitter, but I still think, her defense is more reliable, a little bit more variety. She's adding that. Osaka against Ostapenko, it will all depend on both players' level because it's actually one of these matches I won't really be surprised if it's a blowout, if it's a very close contest, if it's some like 1-6, 6-1 thing. It's really difficult. But I don't know. Yeah, it can become a glorious match. But
yeah, it's worth tuning in for to see which match it is, and then if it's the wrong kind of match, you can always check and see what else is happening.
Oh, for sure.
By the way, I know this was a while back, but I just want to I want to confirm something that's being speculated about in the live chat. I am a cider drinker. That is my poison of choice. There we go. Moving on. Quarter number 3. The Coco Gauff quarter. And I've seen in the live chat, there have been people wanting us to talk about Gauff. An hour in, we got there. My assessment of Gauff's draw is that she's got a good first 2 rounds for her. Round 3 onwards is tough. Svitolina would be her protected opponent in round 3. Then Kostyuk or Navarro in round 4. And quarterfinal could be Krejcikova, Badosa, Azarenka, or Sakkari. If Gauff falls at the first point of real resistance, as she has been from like Wimbledon onwards, she's not making it past round 3 if it's Svitolina. But if she finds something special, then I could see her running the gauntlet to the semis. And that's kind of, it's almost a very similar situation to Rybakina, but with a tougher draw. And yeah, that's kind of where I see that situation working out. What are your thoughts on this Gauff draw?
She has the chance, of course, to play herself into form, and more than that, leave some pressure off. Imagine herself walking out on Arthur Ashe as the defending champion and getting a blockbuster round 1 match. It would have been very difficult for her. This is, she should be able to come through even though not playing great tennis. As more or less she did last year, because we don't have to forget that last year, even though she came into the tournament in very good form, she hasn't really played that well at the beginning of the tournament. And thing is that, will this version of Coco Gauff be able mentally to do what she did last year? And this is for me a big question mark, because last year she hasn't played great tennis at the US Open. Probably she played way better in Cincinnati, in Washington, level-wise, but she did incredibly well from that mental point of view to stay there and fight. And I remember, for example, the match against Wozniacki and almost all those matches, she was in very, problematic situations at times. And the pressure was high because she was coming as the most informed player at the moment. My question is about, this year, what her reaction can be if she finds herself in trouble. Not only if she's able to play well or not, because the Coco Gauff we know is actually one of the greatest ones in winning when she's not playing well. She's done it a lot of times. Last year, at the end, early this year too. I remember
most of this year, to be honest.
Yeah, most of this year, actually, yeah. I wonder if she's in the state, mentally, psychologically, to be able to produce this kind of thing also at this year's US Open, because it's one of her biggest qualities, in my opinion, to be able to stay there mentally and fight with what her tennis is giving her that day. Will it happen though, this tournament? It's a bit difficult to say, and it looks unlikely at the moment.
Yeah, certainly if you go past the last few tournaments, as I said, when she hits a player in really good form, she's losing. But you're right, if she suddenly grits it out and she fights, she is probably like the best in the world at winning ugly, which is probably why she's got Brad Pitt Gilbert in the box. So I guess, we can't rule her out making a semi-finals, but also we don't know whether she's going to lose early. But you just, again, it's a similar to the Rybakina thing. You just don't know, because we know how good Coco can be, even if the results aren't necessarily matching it. But I guess then that comes out to, well, who else are you looking at to potentially come out of this section and make the semis? Like, who are the other options?
And this is not an easy question.
No, because this is another
It's
tough
very
section.
difficult. For me, it's the toughest quarterfinal to predict because, because, I see Krejcikova in the draw. I can see why she can get another deep run, but at the same time, I'm not sure. I'm not really confident, I have to say. There is Badosa. She's playing very well, of course, but there's always, some kind of a little question mark around her form. We know that her body situation is not the most consistent thing, so it's really kind of a week-by-week situation, even if she's playing well right now. Even if probably Badosa is the most informed player of the section, because then we have Azarenka, some injury issues, Sakari
at slams.
Sakari at slams, yeah. It's very, very difficult. Based on form, should probably be Badosa. 1000 is very dangerous.
Oh, Towson, yeah.
I would be shocked to see Badosa losing to 1000 in round 2. I won't be shocked if it happens.
So you're looking at who could be coming through in that sort of eighth, that Sakari eighth. No, Krejcikova eighth. It's Krejcikova.
Yeah, exactly. The World quarterfinal, probably Navarro Kostyuk, maybe look like the most reliable players, especially Emma Navarro. Difficult to Svitolina. I kind of agree. She's a bit disappointing me this year, meaning that every time I see her upping a level a little bit, and I am like, okay, she's getting into form, she can get better, then I'm a little bit unhappy with the way she loses some matches. I've seen her not really being able to show all her, also fighter qualities, even when she's a little bit outplayed. At times in the past, we've seen her still hanging in the score, still being close to the opponent. She'll be ready to use her chances, even when she's kind of outplayed, outpowered. This year, I've seen her a lot of times just being, out of some matches, not being really able to enter them. At any time, I've been, for example, a bit disappointed against Rybakina at Wimbledon. Rybakina was the favorite. I'm not surprised that she won fairly confident that match, of course. I'm not blaming on Svitolina, all of that. But also last week, at times I've been a bit disappointed with the way she's losing some matches. But yeah, I get also the comments when they say Svitolina is dealing with a lot more. I'm just, talking about the performance. I'm not, judging her for, not playing her best tennis, of course.
No, I don't think you were. And that might be interesting because they've got, if Svitolina provides the first big test for Gauff, and Gauff works out how to win ugly, Svitolina's the kind of person that you can gain a lot of confidence from winning ugly against. And that could then change how this draw plays out. But you were talking about Emma Navarro and Marta Kostyuk before, who would be the other big threats in round 4, depending on who comes out of that section, because they've got to play each other first. And they have a little bit of a history of having some epics between those two of them.
Yeah, and so I don't know, probably, for me, the two names I've mentioned, of course, only one of them will be in round 4, look like the most reliable players right now for what I'm watching, for what we've been seeing from there, even if maybe they lacked a little bit in maybe doing that final step. Also thinking at Navarro, so many quarterfinals, semifinals at, tour level tournaments. She's also got a title. But yeah, it looks like the most reliable players. This one of these two. But I can see if Gauff suddenly, she'll still be very solid at slams this year. If she's really able to put pressure aside a little bit, maybe she can improve, even if she hasn't played well lately. Probably I'd go with Navarro, though.
Navarro, okay. Yeah, I can see that. Very consistent. Obviously, beat Gauff at Wimbledon last year. This year, maybe will gain a lot from the US crowd. So is Navarro who you're picking to make semis from this section?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good pick. I think. Then
again, if Blinkova has a reputation for upsetting, great players early at slams, so
that is very true.
She did at the Australian Open, but yeah, I mean, let's see. This is my name. I may be wrong, of course, but it's the name that gives me, the better vibes at the moment, all things considered.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's about 3 names in here that were on my power rankings. If I went with 4 names actually from my power rankings in this section. If I was to go with just purely based on who scores the highest in my power rankings, it's Gauff. The other options would be Krejcikova, but like you said, we don't know how she is. She's only played Olympics since Wimbledon. She's coming in a bit cold. You've got a dog who wants to give an opinion on this.
He said Krejcikova.
I see. Maybe he's believing in Krejcikova. You have Paula Badosa, but there's questions around how many matches she can complete physically. She's giving positive signs that she could do pretty well there, and she'd be a lot of people's semi-final pick from this. But I'm actually going to go with the person I kind of added on as an addendum to the power rankings. I'm going with Marta Kostyuk.
Okay, fair.
Make it. She's someone who I think has been playing very consistently. She's made the last 16 at least of the last 3 big events she played, which was Olympics, Toronto, Cincinnati. And I think unless she's playing someone who can outplay her, which will be a few potential names here, then a few potential names here, then I can see why you would think about her being upset. But I'm thinking about who I'm looking at and going, she could consistently produce a level that would get her through. I'm going with Marta Kostyuk.
Okay, fair. Yeah, I get what, I've also had, here mentioned here, I really, my consideration about also her game of tennis is really high. So I really get what you mean.
There we go. I had some trouble picking round 1 matches for this section. To be honest, this quarter, the only 2 I've got are Kessler Kostyuk and Navarro Blinkova.
I get why. I would probably add, but it's not like
go on, add some, please do. Give me some.
It's not a blockbuster, but in my opinion, it can be a very draining battle. Anna Bogdan against Arantxa Rus. It can be one of these matches where we tune in. Maybe it's a third set on an outside court. Rus has also got some form. I know the head-to-head does not favor her. It's 4-0 for Bogdan, but the last time they played, for example, it's been 3 hours and 35 minutes this year, actually, on hard courts. So I don't know. It's one of these the matches I can catch on if they deliver, on the outside court. So I was probably thinking to add this one, even if it's not, blockbuster with big names.
No, but it's an outside court marathon, which is obviously great for if you have outside court tickets. It's also great for us watching because it just gives us a very different kind of atmosphere. So yeah, I completely see why you would get that one.
And yeah, actually, more or less, I agree, of course, with the other two you picked.
Yeah, it's
yeah,
a
I
tough
would
set.
say that's it.
The section comes alive later on.
I have another one.
Oh, go on.
Now that I'm looking at, it can be Diane Paris against Xiyu Wang.
Yes,
it can be a good one.
That's definitely one that I would like to watch anyway because I like watching Diane Paris. But yeah, that could be quite an interesting match if both are playing really well.
It's also kind of interesting because of you have this Paris crafty tennis, her backhand, and Xiyu lefty can be an interesting match. It's a matchup that can turn out being good one.
Yeah, okay. We'll definitely do that. I think.
Oh, wow, they've already played at a US Open.
Oh, when?
22, first round, 3 sets for Wang, and Wang won in 3 sets also this year in Oakland.
So we're probably going to get a 3-setter.
Okay, I think that's it for me.
Yeah. Let's go for the final quarter then. And it's the Sabalenka quarter. And as I said earlier, she's got the kind of draw that Iga Swiatek fans would dread with so many big hitters. Lulu Sun, Ekaterina Alexandrova, Madison Keys, just to get to the quarterfinals, although with the asterisk that those players could also get upset by people like Magdalene or Elise Mertens. But even if she does get the big hitters, I don't think she's going to have any problem with these players, to be honest. With the form they're in, with the confidence Sabalenka has, I don't expect her to feel the pressure. I'm pretty confident that she's not going to be super tested before the quarterfinals, with the exception of possibly round 2 against Lulu Sun, because that interests me, but that's going to completely depend on Sun's condition after trying to recover from Monterrey and going straight to New York.
I have not only forgotten what it's like for Sabalenka to lose early at the Slam, but I have also forgotten how it's for her to play a long battle and to be really tested early at a Slam, because it's like a lifetime that she's literally blown out her opponents off the court. And I mean, there must be some exceptions. Then probably I see you're trying to remember.
I think Sabalenka's last first week exit would have been the French Open of 22.
Yeah, 22, exactly, the last one. Of course, she hasn't played Wimbledon 22 and 24, but all the other Slam, she's always reached the quarterfinal, and actually only this year, French Open against Andreeva, she lost before the semis. So consistency at Slam is really a specialty here. But yeah, I get what you mean. Also, Keys for now is looking like different thing from last year. So yeah, I still would look on Madison Keys if maybe at times she's able to improve her form, play well, especially in this kind of this kind of tournaments, this kind of environments. So I wouldn't count her out, but yeah, I would be surprised if Sabalenka doesn't reach the quarterfinal. I would be surprised. I have to be honest.
Same, to be honest. And especially, as you're right, her consistency in slams is incredible. She always shows up for them. And given how she showed up in Cincinnati, I'm expecting her to doubly show up at the US Open. So absolutely brilliant. I'm expecting Sabalenka to make at least the
And
quarterfinals.
then also if you see the hard court, especially because it's semifinals, US Open 21, semifinals at US Open 22, and then there's the Australian Open where she won, of course, the last 2 years, US Open final last year. So it's really difficult to beat her in these tournaments. And Sabalenka is also another player who's learned how to win even without playing the best tennis of her life, especially against these players. I mean, when she gets, of course, further in the draw, then issues maybe starts to come. But we've seen her also on the clay this year, despite not feeling the best, still being able to come out and against these very tough players and battles. I will be surprised if she loses early. I have to be honest.
Same. So then I think her first really tough test will be likely the quarterfinals. And looking at her potential quarterfinal opponents, got Zhang Qinwen, who, yes, the last time they played in Australia this year in the final, they played in the quarterfinals of the US Open last year. I'm wondering what a more confident Zhang Qinwen, whether she could step up and against Sabalenka and maybe take a set. You've got Peyton Stearns, who could come through, and we saw that she had a real tussle with Sabalenka at Indian Wells earlier this year, albeit different conditions, different levels of confidence. Or you've also got her kryptonite players as potential quarterfinalists. There's kryptonite players being Donna Vekic, Diana Ostremska, or Amanda Anisimova. That's going to be an interesting test, because if Sabalenka comes through that then she can then she's on the path to win the title.
Yeah, and I'll also curiously, if we look at the Australian Open, that's what my dog is saying. I'm repeating it. If we look at the Australian Opens, she won. She had to beat one of these actually kryptonites, like Vekic, like Anisimova. So yeah, will be for sure an interesting test if it's Zhang, Anisimova, Vekic herself. Yeah, let's see. Then maybe it's Kasatkina like last year, but let's see. It can be a dangerous match for her. Let me mute my dog. One moment.
Yeah, that's fine. If you need to sort the dog out. Clearly the dog is very passionate about the possibilities of whether Sabalenka has any kryptonite. Maybe she doesn't. Maybe he's predicting a Krejcikova Sabalenka semi-final. But yeah, I would agree with that sort of assessment. Like when she's come through and won these big titles, yeah, you're right. She has beaten those players who are really tough. And in this situation, given how strong she's looking, I would expect that she is going to come through that and make the semi-finals.
Yeah, I kind of have this confidence actually. I think she should be able to do it. She's really, I was actually considering how good of a reputation she has built for herself in these tournaments, because even if you have these players who are 6-2 against her, 5-2 against her, beaten her so many times, you still look at the idea of the upset and you struggle to see it. She's, and it's a very, very good thing about her career this past couple of years. She's really built a heavy reputation at slams, at these tournaments. And I don't know if maybe she's also brings it on the court herself, feeling more just more secure out there, feeling ready to play her best tennis, even better than what she does, regularly on WTA events, between the two slams in 500 events, which she hasn't, for example, excelled at lately. So, yeah, I would say that I'd be very much surprised. Even if this player is uncomfortable for her, even if this player has a positive record, I still would be surprised.
Yeah, I'm with you there. So I don't think there's an awful lot to say in terms of predicting this section then. Let's look at our blockbuster round one matches from this final quarter.
Yeah, I just want to answer the comment. She did it last year, even if with many troubles and with many difficulties, thinking, Sabalenka not getting past any informed keys. She did it last year. So why can't she do it this year?
And also Keys isn't in form.
Yeah.
So that's the
Can
other
be
thing.
maybe after the 3, matches, maybe first 3 rounds. But yeah, still, this is my idea.
No, I'm with you there. I mean, Roy's got a point that an informed Keys would be dangerous. And she was so close to beating Sabalenka, but Sabalenka just pulled something off in that semi-final, something special. So let's look at these blockbuster round one matches, and let's face it, we're not looking past Zhang Qinwen versus Amanda Anisimova, which is opening Louis Armstrong tomorrow. Nightmare draw for both because they're both pretty confident right now. Anisimova having made the Toronto final, Zhang Qinwen having just won Olympic gold. And that match is one I'm going to be covering tomorrow on the channel.
Siniakova can be a good one.
Yeah, I've got that down on my list as well. I think I'm interested to see if Siniakova can disrupt Keys. That's on one of my matches to watch list. Also, Veronika Kudermetova against Lise Mertens, and real niche one for your kind of another sort of outer court marathon potential, a bit like your Bogdan Rus pick. Erika Andreeva against Wang Wei.
Yeah. Another one for me can be Alexandrova against Tomova.
Okay.
Tomova is kind of one of these players. I'm looking at their results and I'm like, it's not that bad. She's not beating, the top players, but someone like Alexandrova, it can be a marathon if Alexandrova doesn't play very well. So for me, it can turn into an interesting match.
Yeah, I think it would be. I think it will probably be an interesting match. You're right. I mean, Tova's been finding some form, and Alexandrova, as you say, depends on which one shows up. So yeah, we can keep it. We'll keep an eye on that one. Definitely, that's a good pick. Okay, we're coming into land here, guys. Thanks for sticking with us for the last hour and a half or so. If you have joined midway through, you can always go back and start watching our full kind of preview of the draw quarter by quarter. But it's time to, well, I guess make some predictions, because we probably, because, let's face it, that's what people want to do. That's half the fun, even if they are very likely to be wrong. But it's interesting. We do actually have 3 of the 4 same semi-finalists. Swiatek, Paolini in the top half. And in the bottom half, we've both got Sabalenka either playing Navarro or Kostyuk. I know you said in the top half that it could be a Swiatek-Fernandez semi-final, that you're looking at that as a potential. We can put that out there as well. But that would be like any combination of those would be a really good semi-final lineup for a slam. So I'd be excited for that. But let's talk about it. Swiatek Paolini semi-final. How do you see that playing out?
It's for me very hard to not look forward to that big final. For me, it's actually the biggest gap we've had in a while between the top 2 seeds and the rest of the field, in my opinion. This slam, probably also French Open, we were coming like that because of the finals in Madrid and Rome were the same. And actually, we can still wonder what if Sabalenka was 100% would have happened, if maybe that would have been the final at the French Open, who knows. This time I want to believe this is going to happen. So, this is my pick.
So regardless of who they play, whether it's Swiatek's playing Paulina or Fernandez, which I would agree, like she'd be very heavily favoured in either of those matchups, and whether Sabalenka's playing Kostyuk or Navarro, she would be heavily favoured in either of those matchups. I agree with you. Swiatek Sabalenka is set to be the final, which would be the first time we have a 1 versus 2 Grand Slam final since Australian Open 2018, when it was Halep versus Wozniacki. I see your point. Like the gap between the in fan confidence between the top 2 and the field is probably the highest for a while. I don't think it helps that Pegula's in Swiatek's section, because
absolutely,
Pegula would be the wild card there.
But still, for me, it looks, when I saw, for example, I know that Pegula probably was also, and without probably, playing that final in Cincinnati after all the couple of weeks she had. And especially the week in Cincinnati, which was unbelievably tiring for her. But still, when Sabalenka is serving that way, playing at that level, it's difficult for Pegula and for the rest of the field. And more or less the same is for Iga. In this moment, it feels like when they play, their best tennis and they are in form, yes, there is still a kind of a top 4, meaning that there are Rybakina and Gauff, which looks like the player who have been able to win a slam, who have challenged them in matchups, especially, Gauff with Sabalenka, for example, last year in the final, Rybakina doing it so with both, actually, both Sabalenka and Swiatek. But right now, the gap is quite big between them and Rybakina and Gauff. Not that they cannot play well, and they can't do well at the slam, but right now the gap feels quite big.
Yeah. I know what you mean. And I think I would be surprised if anyone isn't picking a Swiatek Sabalenka final. But I think this then sets a very set expectation, because I think most people are going to have similar outcomes for that Swiatek Sabalenka final. Because if this was the French Open, we would be saying Swiatek heavy favourite. This is more like Sabalenka's territory now. Not as big as Australia. Australia is very much her turf, but suddenly you're looking at probably Iga's toughest Grand Slam final challenge, if that was going to be the case.
Yes, absolutely. It would be, of course, on paper, the biggest one, because I think Sabalenka has proven that even without many issues, some injuries, some mental stuff, maybe in some part of the year for all what happened, we know very well. She's still, in my opinion, the one that she can be, the closest one to Iga. That's what she's proven, in my opinion, this year, even if she hasn't peaked consistently throughout the whole year. And that's why there's such a big gap also in the race between them. But yeah, for sure. Maybe another one would be kind of facing an informed Rybakina at Wimbledon. It looks like that. Right now, Sabalenka is by far the player who has had the best results on hard at slams over the past, let's say, 2 years, starting from US Open 2 years ago. So it would be very difficult but I mean for both, for both players. I'm sure.
Yeah, okay, so let's get us out there. I think we would both agree that Sabalenka is the most likely champion of this year's US Open. Like, whoever she plays in the final, she's going to be the favourite to be the champion of this year's US Open. If it is Swiatek, she's not getting it easily. I think we're not going to see the same blowout that happened in Cincinnati.
No.
It's going to be more like how that Cincinnati final ended than how it started.
Yeah, I won't expect it. I would be very surprised to see a blowout. Actually, in both cases,
Yes.
I would be very surprised. If we have that right now, it looks like we have all what it takes to have a very hard-fought contest. But yeah, we know how in tennis there are so many things that can happen, and this matchup has also proven us that if one of the players is feeling, I don't know, 10% better than the other, it can become a blowout. This is what we got. I know that Sabalenka has only won once in straight sets in Cincinnati, but there's been some of 6-2 sets, some breadstick, so let's just see. I mean, but yeah, for me, I mean, my power ranking is 1, 2, 3. It's clear for this tournament. Would I be surprised if Iga wins the final? Not at all. So that it's simple as that.
Yeah, I think at this stage, but not going to put words on it. Tell me if you agree with it on this. Prediction is it's going to be Swiatek Sabalenka final. It's going to go 3 sets. Sabalenka favored 60-40.
I can relate to this idea.
Yeah. So there we go.
I will back in 2 weeks to the episode
to see what happens. Yeah, maybe we'll do the final then, and we'll
yeah, maybe we're going to to do the Garcia. I don't know, Garcia Bolter final. And we will look very dumb.
Can you get back Garcia Bolter? Garcia.
Yeah, I've chosen these 2 names because they can meet in the final.
Excellent. Okay. That's a
because also if we get this final, I will really laugh at it because of my.
I don't think anyone would predict that right now.
No,
it'd be fun though. I would.
In some way, I did. Even if I just picked the 2 names randomly, in some way, I did.
All right. Well, there we go. That is our full WTA draw breakdown for the US Open. And thanks everyone for joining. As I said, if you joined late, feel free to go back and watch it. I will. I think we're gonna. Wrap it up there. So as I said, we've got Zheng Simova on the screen. That's going to be our first US Open stream. I think I'm doing that. I'm not sure who with yet, or if I'm on my own. But that will be our first stream of the US Open, and then we have others planned. They were listed in the chat earlier by the producer. I think we're doing Team and Shelton, Djokovic's opening match, and then we're also doing. There's another match that I've missed, but yeah, it was a Tiafoe. That was it, Tiafoe Kovacic. So there we go. That's and then expect plenty more streams over the next couple of weeks with US Open content, and I hope to be watching some tennis with you all. And don't forget to tune into ATP Weekly later. Sadly, without Mario this time, but you will have Damien and Vanch. I'm borrowing Mario this week. But thanks for coming on, Mario.
It's always incredibly fun to talk with you on the show. I really hope it's been a good one for who's listened to us. It's been kind of a challenging week, I have to be honest, but I hope I've brought my best.
You did bring your best today, and that's top tier analytics from Mario Picardi. So we'll leave it there. Thanks for coming on. Thanks everyone for watching. Hope to see you all on the Zhang Anisimova watch along tomorrow. Till then, take care and keep talking tennis.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.